Well, happy Sunday, everybody. I am so grateful that you could join me today. We're just going to move this a little bit so I'm standing in the middle of things. We're going to have some fun today. We are going to make a lover's chocolate chip cake. Keto lovers, chocolate chip lovers, cake lovers, two friends who both love, whatever works for you. This is an original TSL cake, and it is delicious. So, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, or a pencil and a piece of paper, or whatever it is you want to write this down on. Make sure you write it down. Thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday, and we are going to have a little bit of fun. Now, one of the things, and I've thought about this several times, and I keep forgetting to do it with you guys, is if you want to figure out how much, if you want to split something up. So instead of making cakes, maybe you want to make little cake-shaped things, cookies, or whoopie pie tops, or ice cream sandwich tops, or whatever it is you want to make. How much do you put in each compartment in order to be able to, good morning, Del, in order to make sure that you know the nutrition information for whatever it is you're making, whether it is keto bread or keto dessert or keto, whatever the keto thing is that you're doing. Well, today we are going to talk about that. And good morning, Mom. And while we're talking about splitting things up, we're going to make a delicious chocolate chip cake. So let's get at it. And the first thing you need, oh, look at that, out of focus, in focus, is your scale. The easiest way to figure out, okay, just a second here. There we go. The easiest way to figure out how much batter you're going to put in is to know exactly how much batter you've got. So, if we take our bowl and set it on the scale, make sure you've zeroed your scale, set it on the scale, and we know our bowl is 690 grams. Yours might be more or less, whatever. Maybe you're going to double this recipe, cut it in half, whatever you're going to do. It is going to be delicious. And you guys want to keep your eyes peeled on YouTube for a video that's going to be coming up. Chris Cooks Nashville, I think is the fellow's name. He has come up with the most amazing recipe for carnivore potatoes. Yep, that's a thing. So we'll talk about that another day. But watch for my video because, yeah, I'm going to be talking to you about what Chris does. But it's too long to do in a live, so we'll do it that way. Okay, so we know our bowl is 690 grams. And when we take it off at 0, so now if we mix up our batter, reweigh the bowl, we know exactly how much batter we've got. And if you want to make 6 or 8 or 2 or whatever, you can do that, split it up very easily. Okay, so the very first thing that we are going to add to our bowl, give you guys a sneak peek, is 2 eggs. Now, this is the only thing in this bowl so far, so I am not too terribly worried about a piece of shell getting in this one because there's nothing else in the bowl. And there we go, and I even managed to do it with no shells in the bowl, so that's a good thing. Okay, next thing right on top is 50 grams of almond flour. Make sure that we get it all out. And then we are going to add 50 to 60 grams. Now this is a personal preference of, now I'm using xylitol. You can use erythritol, you can use allulose, whatever it is you would like to use. And we are going to add just a pinch of Redmond's real salt, just wake that flavor up a little bit. And 2 teaspoons, and I know that sounds like a lot, but we want this beautiful vanilla flavor to really be forward in this little cake that we're doing. And the bowl that I am mixing this in will also be the bowl that I'm cooking it in. So when you are doing something like this, typically you mix the dry ingredients first and you have them sitting aside, and then you mix the wet ingredients. This one is easy enough and forgiving enough that we can do it right in the bowl that we're going to cook it in. So it's basically, it's a mug cake. And then just whip it up. Now you want to make sure that there's no lumps in here. Now, one of the things about keto cakes that are made this way, because we have no baking powder in here, we have other ingredients that typically you would find in a cake, and the proportions are a little off. So it might look a little bit different than you're used to, but it's not going to taste different than you're used to. You're going to love this. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that. Now, before we put this in the microwave, you can see that there's cake batter on the sides of this bowl. You want to make sure that this is all scraped down. So make sure the sides of your bowl are nice and neat and lovely. And then we are going to put this in the microwave for 3 minutes. That is lovely. Okay, 3 minutes in the microwave. And we totally did not weigh that. If we want to break this up, so this is 916 grams total right now. So when you do the math, that's 226 grams of batter. So 226 divided by 6, divided by 12, divided by whatever you want to divide it by. Now, when you put it into a brownie pan, when you put it into any kind of a pan, it's going to be, and I keep forgetting steps here. It's a good thing that I'm realizing what I'm doing. When you put it into any kind of a pan, you're going to know exactly what the nutrition information is, and it's a chocolate chip cake without any chocolate chips. So we're going to take 30 grams of chocolate chips, and we're going to put these in a bowl. Now, one thing that I promise you about the chocolate chips, if you just sprinkle them on top of the batter or mix them in the batter, they are going to sink to the bottom, which doesn't really affect the taste a whole lot, but it affects the look of it. So I'm just sprinkling a wee little bit of almond flour on here, and we're going to put this in the microwave for about 15 seconds, but we're going to do it in 5-second increments. So I'll show you why we're doing that, and it makes a difference when the cake comes out of the microwave. The first time I played with this, there was no chocolate chips on top, none on the sides, and you can see there are some here. Now these still look dry and they're moving around. So we want to do this until they're just looking wet. So depending on the strength of your microwave, depending on your altitude possibly, and the altitude, if you're going to bake this in the oven, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, if you're going to bake this in the oven, you want to put the chocolate chips on top, and you want them to look almost wet. Now these chocolate chips, they're still pretty dry. We're going to put them in for another 5 seconds. These chocolate chips that I'm using are Krista. Yeah, and they are sweetened with stevia and erythritol. And that is what I like about these. And I'm not a real fan of stevia. Okay, now they're starting to look just a wee little bit wet. And you can see that the almond flour, now you can see if I actually show you, the almond flour is just starting to stick to them a wee bit. So now, before it goes in the microwave, we're just going to sprinkle these chocolate chips on top. And they will make their way throughout the cake, and there will be some on the bottom and some on the top. Okay. And there is that. So now that it's actually a chocolate chip cake, because I actually put the chocolate chips in, clean up the mess I just made, we'll put it in the microwave for 3 minutes. And when it's done, it will be absolutely wonderful. Now, the other option is to put it in a 350-degree oven. Now, I will tell you, I did this in an ice cream pan, and I did not measure them the way I should have, but they're pretty close. Now, this is 350 degrees for 20 minutes. And because we're not adding oil, we're not adding cream, we're not adding butter, it's just the egg and the almond flour and the chocolate chips. They did stick a wee little bit to the pan, even though I oiled it with some avocado oil. But they come out of the pan looking absolutely lovely. And you can see that you can see a little bit of the oil still from the pan on it. And so if you wanted to stack these up, or you wanted to do ice cream sandwiches or do icing in the center, decorate them however you want, you've got options. So 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Make sure you're checking and that they're done. Just starting to brown on top, and expect that they're going to stick. So if you're doing it in a cake pan, make sure you're keeping an eye on it. If you're doing it in a pan with individual molds, this is what you're looking for. So now that's dessert tonight. That's what that is. Okay, now you can see, actually I'll leave this over here. Look at the difference in color. These have got a lot more color to them than this does. So this is one that was done in the microwave, and you can see some of the chocolate chips have sunk to the bottom. And again, we have a little bit of oil from the chocolate chips. It's very dense. Not wasting that chocolate chip. Not going to do it. So you can keep this right side up, or you can flip it upside down. Ice it with icing, whipped cream. What do you want on it? Nothing? Probably nothing is the way we're going to go. Okay, now we are just moving right along. I am so organized this morning, and I do not know why. Yeah, I really don't know why. I'm not usually. So one of the things that I have talked to you guys about many, many times is the sugar-free syrup that I put in my coffee, which has always been Da Vinci up until now. But whatever is going on between the Da Vinci sugar-free coffee syrup company and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, don't know, don't care, that's a them thing. You cannot buy Da Vinci syrups easily in Canada anymore. So this one, Mateo's, and I have tried pretty much every brand there is out there, and this one is definitely coming in as the replacement option. And our 3-minute timer went off. And look at that. And look at all the chocolate chips that are still sitting up on top. Now, if you just sprinkle the chocolate chips on top, they're going to go right to the bottom. But when you do that little trick in the microwave with You can use coconut flour if you want. You can use the almond flour. But one way or the other, it keeps them all from sinking right to the bottom. So Mateo's is my new go-to when I can find it, and I'm still doing a little bit of research to see where the best place is for you. Now this, in this ceramic bowl, when you do it in the microwave, it is not sticking. It is lovely. But I'm just, because the shape is a little bit different, I'm just making sure that it's going to come out, hopefully. Now that I've said it doesn't stick to the ceramic bowl, let's hope that I'm right. Oops, whoops, whoops. And I was correct. And again, you can see this is staying a little bit wet. And I keep increasing the time in the microwave, but it is a little bit of the oil from the almond flour and from the chocolate chips, I suspect. So this one is going to sit and cool. And these ones that we've already done do not need to cool. So what would your favorite kind of topping be or filling be for this? So when you are making something that you know is keto friendly, making sure that the filling is also keto friendly is really important. So cream cheese icing with maybe a little bit of chocolate in it, or whipped cream is going to be wonderful on top of this cake. Or you can just have it with nothing on top. And let's cut into this and see what the inside looks like. Now if you're making this for 2 people, you maybe want to just cut it in half. And you can see that it's pretty dense, but it has the chocolate chips going throughout on top and partway through. And that is really nice. Now, when you do it like that in the microwave, it does have a little bit of a difference in taste just because it's cooked differently. These were done at 350 degrees in a convection oven. And because they're browned, the taste is just a wee little bit different. And the chocolate chips, once you get everything portioned out in the pan, sprinkle the chocolate chips on top. And that way you have them sticking out nice and clean the way these are. This is definitely a keeper. And I am going to keep working on this. To find out what I can do to make the bottom look a little more like the top. But one way or the other, this is an awesome way for you to have a chocolate chip keto dessert that you can proudly serve to your friends and family, or you can put it away and keep it all for yourself. One way or the other, you're not going to be short of on your chocolate chip fix. So we're going to set this aside. And you can see that there's a little bit of residual cooking going on in this one. And so that oil is, pardon me, mostly soaking back into the cake, which is going to help keep it moist and wonderful and ready for you to decorate however it is you want to decorate it. And we're just going to set that over here to cool. So that is as quick and easy as it is. And we are only about 17 or 18 minutes, and we have already created a dessert that you can proudly serve to anybody. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about keto and the safety of keto and how long you need to do keto and whether or not it's safe to do long term. Now, one thing that I can promise you is it doesn't matter what you're talking about. You can talk about drinking water. Pardon me. And if you Google it online, you're going to find people who tell you you should drink this much water and other people who tell you you should drink this much water. Nobody is going to quite be able to agree on exactly how much is necessary for you to stay healthy. So when you find all kinds of differing information, what is it that you should do? Well, I'm not going to talk about water. I am going to talk about keto. One of the things that you will find online that I see repeatedly is keto is not a sustainable diet long term. Okay, I want to talk about that a little bit. So I don't know what their definition of long term is, but I can tell you that in our house, it has been 5 years and 2 months and 4 days. 5 years, 2 months and 4 days. And we are still keto 100%. And our health is better than it's ever been. So, after sharing with you last week that I do have a little bit of arthritis in my hip, is that because we've been doing the keto diet and it's dangerous and it causes arthritis in your hip? No. That is one of the tools that I'm using to make sure that this condition is going to go as slow as possible. There is a genetic component to arthritis. There's no doubt about that. And I'm going to be 59 before too long. And out of 59 years, there has only been 5 years of that. So 1/12 that I've been doing keto. For the other years, for the other 11/12 of my life, I was eating a standard American diet, standard Canadian diet, North American diet, whatever you want to call it, that was high carb. And every single time I ate anything that was high carb, whether it was something home baked or a French fry from a fast food place, I was doing a tiny little bit of damage. Tiny little bit, tiny little bit. So I want to show you something that I have used to explain this to people so they can understand what's happening when you're eating a standard diet. So let's say, just for fun, that you have a stick and you take a knife and you run it down the side of that stick. Now maybe this is a table leg. Maybe it is something that's holding up the corner of your house. And when you very lightly scrape that knife down the side and you look at it afterwards, you see no damage. Now, if I did that very same thing over and over again, 3 or 4 times a day or 7 times a day for 5 years, 10 years, 40 years, 54 years, how much damage would be done? There would be almost nothing left. So the damage would be significant, even though you don't see any damage from one day to another. That is what we're doing to our body when we're eating a standard North American diet. We are doing a little bit of damage that we cannot see every single time we eat. So how many times a day should you eat? Well, I'm not going to give you an answer to that, but I will tell you this. If you are eating a meal 7 times a day, and I know all of you are going to say, I would never eat that many times a day. In our society, whether you're talking about a coffee break or recess, what happens for many, many people, they wake up in the morning, they have breakfast. And then at their mid-morning break, recess or coffee break, they have a muffin or a cookie or a piece of fruit or whatever it is they have. Then at lunchtime, they have their lunch. And then mid-afternoon, they have another snack. And then you get home after school and you have an after-school snack. And then you have supper. And right before bed, you have a bedtime snack. Do the math on that. That's 3 meals. That's kind of what we've always been taught that we should do, right? And 4 snacks. That is 7 times a day that you are asking your body to do the most labor-intensive thing that it does, digest food, which takes a minimum of 3 hours, depending on your system. Some people it takes much longer than that. You're not giving it time to finish doing what it was doing before you ask it to do it over again. So how many times do you need to eat? Well, I'm going to let you figure that out for yourself and your family. In my world, not every day, but most days, I try to limit it to once a day. And I have not wasted away, and I'm not dying of starvation, and I'm not sleeping 22 out of 24 hours because I have no energy. As a matter of fact, the more often I eat, the less energy I have. So, why is it that we believe that we need to be eating 7 times a day or 3 times a day? That is an advertising thing. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Everybody knows that. Children are not going to be able to concentrate in school if they don't have a good, nutritious breakfast. Here's a package of sugar-filled cereal. Give them this. And you're not going to be able to concentrate at work. You're not going to get that promotion. You're not going to have a good relationship with your coworkers unless you have a good, nutritious breakfast. I wonder if that's true. It's not for me. And the only way that you are going to know is if you try it. So when you are asking your body to do something over and over and over again that takes a tremendous amount of energy, and you're not giving it time to recuperate between times that you're making this request, it's no wonder that you're exhausted when you get home. And how many times a day are you running the knife down that table leg? And when you get all the way through that table leg, what happens to your table? It's not any good. So, think about that when you're eating a high-carb diet. Think about that when you are deciding what to have for breakfast, lunch, supper. When you're deciding whether or not you need that snack. That would be the snack that I just took a bite of this morning, and I'm not where I usually am when I want to eat during the day. But when I hang out with you on Sundays, it tends to be a little bit of an exception to the rule. Is keto a good long-term diet? Well, the human species says it is, because 20,000 years ago, we were hunter-gatherers. We had no agriculture. We certainly did not have 3 meals a day. And when we were lucky enough to have 3 meals a day, it was not potatoes and vegetables and a starch and a vegetable and some meat and dessert afterwards. That's not how it went. What we existed on predominantly was meat and fat. And humans were healthier then than they are now. And yes, I know the life expectancy was a lot shorter, but there were a lot of people who died in childbirth. There were a lot of people who died from very simple infections that today we wouldn't even think about. We'd put some polysporin on it, or we would take an antibiotic, or we would do whatever it is the doctor said needed to be done. But they didn't have those things back then. So, yes, the life expectancy was a lot shorter, but not because our health was worse. It was because we didn't have the knowledge that we have today. And with all of the knowledge that we've gained to help get rid of infections, to help set a broken bone, to deal with whatever condition needs to be dealt with surgery. And you probably know that I had shoulder surgery back in October. That injury easily could have happened and probably would have happened 20,000 years ago. There was no surgery to fix it. And yet, with all the knowledge that we have, with all the research that's been done, with all the studies that have been done, whether it's an epidemiological study or a randomized control trial, we are still telling people to eat in an unhealthy way and to feed their children in an unhealthy way. And we're telling them to just take their word for it. When you see a commercial on TV that says you should eat these sugar puffs, you should just take their word for it, because you should. Do your research. Don't believe what I'm saying. I don't want you to just blindly believe what I'm saying. I want you to do some research for yourself. I want you to understand what it is that you are doing to your body and to everybody that you're offering any kind of nutrients to. Is it a good decision? Is it a bad decision? I don't know. And you don't know either unless you do your research. So, from now until you make a final decision, do your research. And 5 years, 2 months, and what did I say, 4 days in, I still have not made a final decision. And I continue to do research, and I continue to listen to experts and read medical studies, because that's what I do. I want to have the best information that I can have to make the best choices that I can make. So, there's your homework. I want to very much, hello Valve, I want to very much thank you for joining me today, and I hope all of you will do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. Click the bells, the whistles, the thumbs up, all of the things, so that we can hang out here every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain with something else that is delicious and keto nutritious. So are you going to allow yourself dessert today? Well, I hope you are. I can assure you that in our house there will definitely be dessert today, and Dell will likely be taking some with him when he goes back to work. So thank you very much for being here. Call someone that you haven't talked to for a while. You're going to light up their life as much as they're going to light up yours, and they'll be thrilled that you did. So I will see you next week, 10 a.m. Mountain, and watch for that video. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, there will be a video posted on YouTube that is talking about carnivore